Well, not much, but if I'm sure some of you have heard of cosplay before, but if you haven't, I will tell you what it is. You see, cosplay is the practice of dressing up as a character from a book, movie, TV show, or video game. Now, you might be thinking, oh, so it's like a Halloween costume, but for conventions. Well, let me tell you something, dudes. That's necessarily not true. You see, Halloween costumes are mostly generic, like a ghost, witch, goblin, etc. But let's say if it's a ghost or witch from a movie or TV show like The Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, or maybe Pac-Man from those arcade games. Waka 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 waka. Little joke humor there. That's because cosplays are basically costumes that are based on pop culture or science fiction. Or basically anything that you like or obsessed with, like an anime or a Disney movie that you like. Let's say, for example, you like a Disney movie and you're a fan of Ozzy from Pinocchio. That could work as a cosplay because you're obsessed with it and you like to know more about the character, or you could be the character. Yeah, basically be the character. That's the way of cosplaying. Now, as a cosplayer like myself, you don't necessarily need to be a professional actor, but it's best to point out that it's best to know the character inside out. Now, allow me to change my voices so that way I can change to my normal voice. Okay, so I take over the mind of Hux apparently. Now, some of you may not know this, but I'm actually a college graduate with a bachelor's degree in theater, and as an actor, I'm best known for, if I'm cast in a role on stage or screen, I have to read through the character description and basically read the script to know more about the character. And in some cases, you have to know everything from outside the script. Like, for example, let's say I play a romantic lead and I fall in love with a beautiful woman. And let's say I marry her at the end. Okay, now I know what's going on, but what were his motivations before he met this girl? What was his occupation? Where was he born? Where does he live? All that stuff. Well, that's really nice because, but I don't want to stand here and wait around and name everything imaginable because if he did, he'd probably stay here. We'd probably be here all day. So now, how many of you are getting this so far? How many of you are understanding what cosplay is as of now? And I'm pretty sure some of you have right now. So, all right. So now that we have cosplaying out of the way, let's talk a bit about fursuiting. Now, some of you may have already attended the Fursuiting 101 panel. If you have, great. So I don't want to go into full detail. Basically, fursuiting is pretty much the same thing as cosplaying, except you're in a furry costume, case in point, and try doing all that without having a heat stroke. But funny humor. So yeah, same thing that fursuiting is pretty much the same thing as cosplaying, in a way. So now it leads to my next point, in which cosplaying and fursuiting can go hand in hand. Sometimes you can often combine the two into one. Let's say, for example, you have a fursuit. You may not have one, but let's say you do. And you have them, or her, or they, depending what gender you are, dress up as a cartoon or anime character. Now, for example, I went to a convention years ago called MomoCon, which is an anime gaming convention in Atlanta through COVID. And I saw this guy who was dressed up in a Pinkie Pie fursuit. You know Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony. So this guy who was dressing up as Pinkie Pie, he had Pinkie Pie dressed in a Sailor Moon outfit because I assume he also loves Sailor Moon, and I'm sure some of you guys as well. That is a good example of having your fursuit dressed up as as a character from an anime, or in this case, cosplay. And that could also work. And if you're also wearing like a character onesie or whatnot, that could possibly work as well. So let's say you have a furry, or let's say your fursuit, or you dress up as a Power Ranger or a Ghostbuster. That could work of having your fursuit dressing in a cosplay. Now, another example is that sometimes your fursuits can also work as a cosplay. Now, some of you may have gone to anime game conventions and we all bring our fursuits just to showcase to everyone, see how cutesy we are. That's a good thing. We always do that. But sometimes your fursuits can also be based on a pop culture or science fiction, or something based on a movie, cartoon, or TV show, or video game. So let's say, for example, you have a bunny fursuit and it's based on Bugs Bunny. Now you can say you have a Bugs Bunny fursuit, you have it made or commissioned, and you can wear it as a furry or cosplay that could work as fine. And you wouldn't say you own the character because it's owned by Hanna-Barbera or something like that. But let's say you have a bunny fursuit that is based on Bugs Bunny, and basically what happens is you add some little changes and whatnot, and basically that could work as a cosplay because it's based on a cartoon character that you like. Now, lastly, you may have known that Tilt Longtail was here. I don't know if he's here. I don't know if he's here in chat. Maybe not. I have no idea. But Tilt Longtail has a lot of costumes that are in fact based on cartoon characters like Roger Rabbit or Brer Fox. Now, those costumes, even though they're furry enough, they were designed as furries, they could also work as cosplay for an anime gaming convention or whatnot. So basically, what I'm saying is, if you have a character idea or a costume that is already a furry, that could also work as your cosplay for an anime gaming convention. Now, I know I talked about conventions and whatnot, so that pretty much leads to the next point of the types of cons out there. Now, most of you are familiar with furry cons, but let's see how that is compared to the anime gaming cons that we see pretty much anywhere. Now, one thing that both cons have is that the weather, the different weather from different cities or different states, it could affect your cosplay in any way. So just keep an eye on the weather. If you sweat so hard, I mean, you're still gonna get sweaty anyway, so keep that in mind. Now, there are a few differences between furry cons and anime gaming conventions. Now, I've been to a couple of gaming conventions myself, and I know what it feels like. But this is your first con, then that's perfectly fine. You might know a thing or two about what different cons or different con life. If that all makes sense. So, first off, furry cons provide more air conditioning than anime gaming conventions. Because in a furry convention, where most of us are dressed up in fursuits, case in point, and basically you need to find a way to keep yourself cool, and that way you have to turn up the air conditioning, and that way you can keep ourselves cool and not have heat stroke. Now, anime gaming conventions, they have air conditioning, but not as much. And here's the thing though. Most cosplayers in an anime game convention don't necessarily dress up in a costume like this. Because inside they have to find a way to keep themselves cool, maybe a fan or an ice vest inside. Just find a way to keep yourself cool in a costume like this while in an anime gaming convention. And that's the key thing. Now, another advantage to a furry con is that we have a headless lounge in which you can take off the head, put it on top of a fan or something like that, and let it dry off a bit, and maybe have a chance to cool off, and of course, maybe get dried up, drink some water. Case in point, I have water right here. And once they're all dried up and rehydrated, you can go back out and continue your fursuiting. Now, anime and game conventions are a little different. There are rest areas where you can take off your head and rest for a bit. You have to sit down and eat a snack and whatnot. Now, something you might know about something you may not know is that okay, it's time to go for a moment. All right, it's completely different because you take out the head, you can rest, rehydrate, eat a snack or something. That's all good, and actually, it's a good way to give yourself more air or bring in the air conditioning so that way you can keep yourself cool without having to sweat a lot. I know you're gonna sweat a lot, but basically not. Let's just say not get a heat stroke. See what I'm saying? Dear Walter. Funny. Now, this brings to my last point in the panel, meaning that whether you have a fursuit or not, basically anyone can cosplay. Any furry, whether you're a fursuiter or not, anyone can cosplay at any place, at any time, whether it's a con or a birthday or party, or better yet, a social gathering or meetup. So basically, what I'm saying is, whether you dress up in a fursuit or not, anyone can be a cosfurry. Thank you very much for coming to my panel, and how it's on. Oh, we have a lot of time. Anyone can be a cook. Anyone can be a cosfurry. So yeah, what I'm saying is, anyone can be a cosfurry if your mind depends on it. Now, I think we have about time, so if you like, feel free to post in your questions or show any of your cosplay stories that you may have or you might want to talk about. So if you like, you may feel free to post in the chat and ask any questions about fursuiting and or cosplay experience, or maybe a story about your experience of being in a cosplay. For example, I think I have one. Now, last year you may have seen me as Scrooge McDuck, the richest duck in the world from DuckTales. Now, basically, one of my stories is that I was in that. Now, this is from MomoCon, and I dressed in that thing for like 10 hours. No joke, 10 hours. And after I left, I was trying to get back to the hotel. And by the way, Atlanta was like 90 degrees out, so it was very hot. And it was 10 hours in the suit, covered in sweat. I struggled my way to get back to the hotel. And once I got back, I took out the costume, took a shower, and collapsed in the bed, and lived to tell a tale. So yeah, if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here today. Oh, yes, I do have a question. Why is mascotting a major thing, and yet furries are frowned upon? Well, okay, so mascotting is basically it doesn't have to be professional, and I don't know why furries are frowned upon. I think in a way, fursuiting, in a way, it can train you to become a better mascot performer, because one major thing of mascotting is that you don't talk, not allowed to talk. Now, in my case, like Pete, for example, I have a Pete cosplay right here. Basically, I can't talk in it because it has a moving jaw, and I can talk as the character. That also goes with acting as well, because I'm a cosplayer that also voice acts. So that way, if you know about the character, if you understand, it basically depends on mascotting and fursuiting in general. Like, if you know how to be the character inside out, you're totally fine. I love your ducks. Well, thank you. I'm sure Scrooge and Donald will be perfectly happy to hear that. Difference between a furry and a mascot. Okay, so a mascot could be any character. from like a store or maybe in the park. A furry is kind of like a mascot costume, but covered in fur. And that's the basic meaning of it. So basically, what I'm saying is that one thing I want to talk about is that I am a mascot performer. I'm a mascot performer myself, and it kind of works the same way as fursuiting. You'll still sweat. Yeah, you'll still sweat a lot. Whether you're a mascot performer or a fursuiter, you'll still sweat, and you still want to keep hydrated. So always make sure to keep hydrated. That's the main rule. Do I make fursuits or where to find unique fursuit parts such as skeletal wings, or is that not any of your experience or expertise? Oh, now first off, this fursuit here, Hux Gamer, I actually got him commissioned a couple of years ago, and I personally do not make fursuits. And I don't make cosplays either. If I did, it'd be amazing, and I'd probably make a living out of it. But unfortunately, I don't. Most of my costumes are imported from other states or other countries like Peru or Mexico, and nowhere to find fursuit parts. I'm sure you can find them like online, basically at a store or someplace like that, or online store. I'm sure some of the dealers here are selling fursuit parts that you may need. So I'm sure if you ask them about where to find skeletal wings, they might help you out. It's best if I clothes a little big when cosplaying in a full fursuit. Well, that's okay. So a full suit. Okay, that's a hard thing because depending on what fursuit you have or what type of fursuit you have. In my case, it's a partial. In my case, it's a partial, so I could wear my clothes regular size and not worry about it. So when it comes to dressing in a full suit, I think it's probably best to I'd say get it a size up. Is that your thing? So basically, if you want to dress up, if you want to put on clothes that are like a size higher, that might work for a full fursuit. So I think I hope that answers your question. Have any interesting experience or seen anything costumes? Okay, I know I meant. Oh boy, that is a hard question. Have any have you have any interesting experiences or seen anything costumes you really like? Well, I really do like costumes that have the moving jaw because they're real, or basically animatronic, because I love how with the animatronics they'll make you feel like it's really the character, like it's real, it's actual movement, and that's something I love doing, and hopefully I hope to see one someday. And I love costumes that are intriguingly designed, and also if I ever get a costume, I always look at quality first, because some costumes you see in China, I'm usually against those. But if you can make it work, that's totally fine. What else do we have? I'll get to the question first, but there's a tip with cosplaying. Some people say to set your makeup with hairspray. Please don't do that. Get setting powder, or just be careful to not wipe your face. Hairspray could not go on your face for long periods of time. It's meant for hair, not for your face. Okay. I have used hairspray, but for stage acts, and on my cosplays, I personally never use hairspray. But I just comb my hair, stuff like that. But I never used any makeup for cosplaying, and if you're into that, that's perfectly fine. That's totally up to you. All right, so I'll get to this question right now. What inspired you to start cosplaying? Oh boy, so my first cosplay I ever did was Knuckles as a DJ, because I was inspired by the in Knuckles themes from Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, they have a rapping segment. And I thought it'd be a cool idea to combine the two and make it a cosplay of their own. Now, I actually showed that cosplay to Knuckles' Japanese voice actor, Nobutachi Kana, at Anime Week in Atlanta. And they thought that Knuckles was a gangster based on my cosplay, which I take that as a compliment. I really, it was awesome meeting the voice actors anyway. And it was really cool dressing up as, because I love Knuckles, I love hip hop, and I thought combine the two could make a whole lot of sense. And I did that with my fursuit as well, and I thought it worked really well. And also, if you want to ask me, and also what's fun with fursuiting is that, again, I went to MomoCon and I was enthralled by seeing all these people in fursuits walking around, and at that point, I knew how costumes were made and worn, or basically how to put them on. So I was inspired to make Huxgamer. So I came up with 3 different designs, and this is actually the 3rd and final design that I came with. I wanted to make it a partial, and eventually I might make it a full suit, but now's not the time. And I've had this idea going on for like 3 years. I started in 2015 or 2016, something like that, 2015. And I had this fursuit since 2018, so I've had this thing for, almost 3 years. So that's a long time. And I'm sure some of your fursuits are probably longer, and they've longer age, and some of you may have fursuit longer than I did, so good on you on that. So yeah, I think we have, and I think I love to be in fursuits. I love to be in cosplay, and I've been in mascot suits before, only for cons, and I also do video commissions as well, for like $25. So whenever I can, I always like to do video commissions or do video messages. I also try to talk as the characters as well, but probably when I do a mascot costume, I always try to be silent. I try to pantomime everything. So, like, for example, I do like that. So it's basically just all pantomime. Well, in some cases, in cosplaying, you can also talk as the character. I think I mentioned that before. If you can actually do the voice of the character very well, you can actually sound like the character or be the character. And like I said, you don't have to be a professional actor to know that you can understand the character inside out. But if you know a lot about the character already, then I think you're good to go. Oh, do you have a favorite con you see a lot of cosplay at, or con in general you want to visit? Now, one con I always like to visit is MomoCon. Now, as I mentioned, one con that I always go to is MomoCon, which is an anime game convention in Atlanta. They have a lot of impressive cosplay there. It is amazing. If you haven't gone there, you should. And I think it's probably canceled. I think I heard, unfortunately, it's probably canceled due to what's going on right now. If it's a furry con, I love to go to Anthrocon. I've never been. I know people who have gone. I'm sure some of you may have as well. I know I should have gone a couple years ago based on the theme alone being surf specific. And as you know, I'm a surfing dog who likes to play video games. Surfing is part of the theme. I should have gone. Why? But I couldn't go because I was in the process of moving from Birmingham to Tennessee. I used to live in Alabama, by the way, so keep that in mind. How do you feel about homemade props? Well, homemade props are basically it depends on if you're good at making props in general. Saying that if you know, I personally had never played. I think I have made a prop before, but it's only like on a cardboard. But if you basically just know the right materials, if you own the right materials, you can make a decently good homemade prop. I also suggest going on a store like Etsy, where they have a ton of materials you could use to make homemade props for your cosplay. Now, people bring in like keyblades, like a Kingdom Hearts character. Sometimes they make their own swords or an axe, or an axe. But the best thing to do is not bring in anything sharp. Like if it's a sword or an axe, make sure it's plastic and not sharp, so that way you don't have to hurt anyone. And also, another thing I want to point out is that at cons they also have like weapons check. So you bring the weapon and make sure that just to make sure you're not bringing anything dangerous to a con, because that could potentially kick you out. So if you want to bring a weapon, make sure it is not dangerous. That's the main thing. If you bring a weapon or a prop that's like a sharp pointy edge or maybe a gun, make sure it is not dangerous. Okay? That's the only pointer I could think of. Oh boy. But yeah, I had experiences. But yeah, I've actually MomoCon was actually the one con the first time I ever fursuited and the first time I ever been in the mascot costume, and it is hard at first, but once you've done it a few times, you'll probably get the hang of it. So again, best thing you want to do is keep yourself hydrated, and keep yourself hydrated, give yourself a good meal, get some extra, get a good night's sleep, and that way you'll have the energy that way you'll make sure you'll even have the energy to cosplay or be in a mascot costume or stuff like that. Oh, you made your own. Oh, you made your. Oh, the one and only Jax, you made a sphere out of cardboard. That's awesome. That is so cool. I actually want to see that. I actually want to see that at some point. That's cool. I like that. Yeah. So basically, with homemade products, you can make it out of anything if your mind depends on it. Basically, what you can do is that, yeah, I think I mentioned it before. With homemade products, you can use anything, like anything you can find around the house, like any junk you find or anything you find, like a paper or cardboard or something like that. Just take the time to create it, and then you have your own homemade product. It gives you it gives you dedication. Oh, it says Razzie said, I've had friends make props out of sticks and hot glue. Amazing. Yeah, so sticks and hot glue. I would recommend use hot glue for anything that sticks, but the thing about it is that hot glue doesn't last a long time. So if it's coming loose, make sure you get an extra pack of hot glue gun, because you might need to re-stick it on the same area. Maybe. Oh yeah, that's the one thing I want to talk about, is that if at any point your cosplay or your fursuit gets damaged, there is a cosplay repair room at every con, so that way you can bring it there, and that way they'll fix your cosplay, and then you'll look good as new. So yeah, at any point, if you feel like your cosplay or costume might break, then bring it to a cosplay repair shop, because that is your only lifeline, rather than having your cosplay look like a complete mess. As you mentioned you were a voice actor, what are your favorite or foreign accents that you like speaking in your character roles? Oh wow, so that's a good question. I've done British. I've done British for roles. For example, I did Orbot for side comic once. So it's something like, practically, we're a halfback-sized boss. If you don't find your friend, can I be a sidekick? It's almost like R2D2 from Star Wars. In fact, Kurt Thornton said that it was based on not R2D2, C-3PO, sorry, from Star Wars. Wow, I think I've done British before. I tried to do a French accent one time. Well, I don't think I've done French before, but I'd love to do French. A French accent like, oui, oui. It's little bit that, no? It's almost like Pepe Le Pew. Bonjour! Oh, Wild Bear Tiger, that's a very good point. It's really important to remember that just like fursuits, you should always ask before you touch anyone's cosplay or suit. That's actually a good point because even nowadays with the ongoing pandemic, it's always best to ask whether or not they want to touch you. But nowadays, you probably best not to because you don't want to spread out the virus. But yeah, like nowadays with the pandemic, it's always best to make sure to ask first rather than have them touch you. I mean, there are some people that say, yeah, they could sure go ahead, touch me, whatever you want, but there are some people in costumes that they don't want to get touched. That's the thing. That's actually a hard thing. Yeah, it is important. It's never fun to have people pull at your costume. Yeah, there are times when people can just pull out their head and just be terrified. That's something I recommend you wouldn't do. Like, I always think that kids are very unpredictable. Sometimes they'll like you, and yes, I've had times where I have scared the kid, but unintentionally. I try my best not to scare anyone. If they are, that's fine. I'll try my best to comfort them. I try to be entertaining and humorous. But sometimes kids are just unpredictable. They just don't know how to behave. So that's the thing. I think kids are very unpredictable. AMR 2002 AMR asks, what advice with social media and NAD, and making photography and videos while cosplaying in and out of fursuit? Okay. So, first thing in social media, I think it's a good way to showcase your fursuit and or mascot costume. There's Twitter. There's even Furfinity. There's a website called Furfinity in which you can showcase as many like your photography or your fursuit or your mascot costume. And there's also Flickr, which is a photo sharing website in which you can actually you can post photos and stuff like that. And yeah, any social media. I think social media is a great way to just showcase your fursuit slash mascot costume, and of course photography. I think it's a great way to showcase what you have in store, and also a great way to also meet people as well. Oh wow! So, but yeah, and also a good thing to ask is that they ask you to take a photo of yourself. If you're very photogenic, you could say, of course, and just pose for them however you want. I can think of many poses myself. And yeah, if you want to ask for a photo, you have to think of a good pose that what you think the character would do. And that could really show that, yes, I am that character. I know what I could do to take photos, and I can show that I am really that character. So I think it's a good way to practice showcasing your character's abilities and showing what your character can be like in any way, shape, or form. And also, yeah, same thing. Asking if you want to talk about. Yeah, and basically, yeah, I've been in cosplay before, and I know what it feels like. And sometimes they ask you if you want to hold someone's child to take a photo. Just don't, because kids can be uncomfortable with them being held by a costume character or someone they don't know, and that can be terrifying. So I wouldn't do that. Just let someone else take care of the photo and whatnot. That's pretty much what I say about it. Oh, there's a question I missed. Any thought about putting anything electronic on your cosplay? Oh, anything electronic? That's actually a good question. There are a few I did. I have seen some I have seen cosplays that do involve electronics, like for example, like LED lights and whatnot. Some sometimes they use oh, what was that called? Anyway, I'm just drawing a complete blank, but putting anything electronic, it's such a good way to help enhance your cosplay in a way. Um, I I know I haven't done anything electronic on any of my suits, but if so, that'd be cool. And also even some fursuit heads, even the fursuits have some animatronics as well. Like for example, there was one fursuit I saw at a FanCon where they have electronic eyes that blink, which I think is really cool. Like if you know someone that can make a fursuit head that can actually blink his eyes and move a jaw, that is really cool. And I love costumes that can do that. It brings more of like the realism of the character, and that's what I think is really cool. So if there's anything you'd like to add, like electronics or let's say a fan inside the head or a moving jaw, do whatever you can. Because I think personally, it's really cool to have electronics, and I like it. I love electronics, and I wish I could do the same for mine. So we'll see what happens. Um, I know, N2, you already asked that. Yeah, I think you did ask me that already with social media. Oh wow, so I don't know if that's all the questions I can get, but yeah, I think that's a lot of cosplay stories you have, and yeah, first time I ever cosplayed was I think in 2015 was with DJ Knuckles. That was the only cosplay I had until I had this guy. I had Husgamer. Rating commissioned. I debuted him in 2018 from MMOCon, and I, I thought it was a big hit, and I always had to bring him any convention I go to, like con anime conventions, gaming conventions, or even furry conventions. And of course, whenever the pandemic clears off, I think we'll be more than happy to meet each other again, whether we without having to wear our mask all the time. I know technically we are we're ahead technically wearing a mask right now, but again, it might yeah, I think wearing a costume could also help you with COVID as well because you're kind of protecting yourself from the COVID glands, basically. So it gets into stuff that might that might get you the virus, and that's a way to help prevent it from happening. Oh, the next panel is role playing 101. So that's funny because that actually helps out with cosplaying. That could actually help out because co- cosplaying and role playing they gotta go hand in hand. Well, kind of like a person. Have you ever seen a furry cosplay version of a human-like character from anime? Oh, I don't know if I have, but that's a good question. A furry version of a human-like character. Oh wow. I don't know. That's a pretty hard question. That's a good question. I think a furry cosplay of any creature, of any character, is always is really cool. And I think if you have like the dedication to make a costume out of that, it'll take a long time to say the least. But best thing you want to do is that if you want to start making a cosplay, start making it in like months in advance, unless you know how to make cosplays yourself. But if you're a first timer making the cosplay, it can take months to make. So try scheduling try scheduling like daily on like what time and when do you think will be good to work on your cosplay, and maybe if you have enough time, you'll be able to present it to that convention. Oh, for example, a furry Sasuke from Naruto. Oh, okay. Now, I'm not really familiar with Naruto, but yeah, that could actually work for your cosplay. Like, have your persona dress up as as Sasuke from Naruto. I think I did. Oh yeah, Naruto. Oh yeah, now I remember. I think I did voice Sasuke for an online project once, and I actually did use. And the cosplay voice is actually a surfer voice, which is kind of like what I do. So yeah, I think. And oh, possible one is Renamon. Oh, from Pokemon, I think, right? Is Renamon from Pokemon or Digimon? I'm not quite sure. I always kind of get the two mixed up. But yeah, you're. So yeah, with cosplay, the sky's the limit. You can make anything you want as long as it's like a pop culture or science fiction. But yeah, I've seen cosplayers that have their own Pokemon fursuits. I know someone who has a Lucario fursuit, or someone may have a Pikachu fursuit. That's a good idea. That could also help in your cosplay. Now, and yeah, with cosplay, the sky's the limit. You can make anything. You can make your costume out of any material or anything you like if your mind depends on. If your mind depends on it, and that's a good idea. That could help you out in making your potential cosplay or your next potential fursuit. Oh, Digimon. Oh, Renamon from Digimon. Okay. Now I'm only familiar with the first Digimon movie. I recently to watch the show. I am familiar with Pokemon, by the way. But yeah, with Pokemon, Digimon, that okay. If it ends in Mon, it's from Digimon. Okay, now I understand. Okay, yeah. If it's Pokemon, it can end in anything. But if it ends with Mon, it's Digimon. Okay, so now I get it. But yeah, if it's a so yeah, with cosplay, the sky's the limit. It could be a costume, it could be a mascot character, it could be a fursuit. The sky's the limit. You can make a costume out of anything you like. As long as you know what character you're doing, how well you know the character, and what you could do in order to be that character, which I think will help you out very well. So how long do we have? Like 15 minutes? And then now I'm also looking at the oh 10 minutes. I also want. I think I found something in the Discord chat that I think I found interesting. River from Discord says, I've never been to a furry con, but I first did an anime con and a sci-fi con. I was hoping to debut a Lucario fursuit myself, but it took longer. I'm so bad at finishing things like what else I could do. My first cosplay was Tales from Sonic, just done cheap for School Spirit Week. I'd love to do a fursuit version soon. Oh wow, that's actually pretty cool. Like, um, I just purchased a Sonic costume not too long ago, and it might get delivered like in early April. So if so, I might post it on my Furry page. It's Bradley Angle 123, and oh, it was under $100. That's so cool. But yeah, but yeah, that's amazing. Like okay. Oh, Mary Lee says as long as you're making the costume, if it's a copyright character, America can't take a commission for it. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so as I said before, if it's a costume that you made, it could work. But if it's like an official costume, don't, because you might get sued. Yes, I have an official costume of Michigan J Frog, but it's something you wouldn't recommend bringing to a con because it's officially licensed. But if it's a character that you made or designed it, that's perfectly okay. Anything fan made is totally fine. So I think Reggie, I think it's probably a good time to wrap up. Okay, so all right, all right. So that's actually a lot. I'm actually glad you all have a lot of stories and a lot of questions to ask, and for some time. Pardon me. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming to my channel, and I hope to see you guys later on, and hope you all have a fantastic time for the rest of your BRI pack, and I hope the pandemic clears up, so I'll see you in person next year. So, I wish you all, as always, I wish you all good luck the rest of your day or night, wherever you are. Take care, everyone.